I only said, I don't like that dress. She screamed I was cheating, clutched her phone like it held secrets. So I packed every designer outfit I ever bought her, gave them to someone who actually needed them, and locked her out of my life for good. I'm 34, and if someone had told me that a single, casual comment could flip my entire relationship upside down, I would have laughed it off. But here I am, sitting with the memory of how it all began, over something as small as a dress. It was an ordinary day, nothing unusual, nothing special. My girlfriend was getting ready to head out, and she came into the room with a dress I hadn't seen her wear before. At first, I didn't think much of it, but when she asked, "How do I look?" I gave an honest answer. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't say anything cruel. I just said, "I don't really like that dress." That was it. That's all I said. The shift in her expression was instant, like I had flipped a switch. Her face hardened, and before I could even explain myself, she went off on me. "So you don't like me anymore? Your interest in me is gone, isn't it?" she snapped. "I'm sure someone else has entered your life. That's why you're looking at me differently." I stood there, completely stunned. All I had done was give my opinion on an outfit. Not her as a person, not our relationship, just the dress. But it didn't matter. The words seemed to cut deeper than they should have, and her reaction told me something else was brewing beneath the surface. I tried to calm her down, to explain that it wasn't about her. "I'm not saying I don't like you," I told her. "I just don't like the dress." She wouldn't hear it. Her voice kept rising, accusing me of pulling away, of secretly being involved with someone else, of no longer being the man she thought I was. And I remember thinking to myself, where on earth is all of this coming from? For a moment, I just stood back and watched her pace around the room, throwing accusation after accusation. She was worked up to the point that nothing I said seemed to land. It wasn't just about a dress. It was about something much bigger, something I hadn't seen clearly before. What hurt the most wasn't the yelling. It was the way she looked at me, like I had betrayed her in some unforgivable way. It didn't make sense, and yet the intensity in her voice made me second-guess myself for a split second. Was I really doing something wrong without realizing it? Or was this her way of distracting me from something else? That night replayed in my mind for hours after she stormed out of the room. I kept circling back to one thought. Why did she take it so personally? Looking back, that was the moment when the first cracks in our relationship really showed themselves. I didn't see it then, but what started as a comment about clothing was actually a doorway into something much deeper, something I wasn't prepared for. And as small as it seemed at the time, that one conversation would set off a chain of events I'll never forget. The fight over the dress didn't end that night. If anything, it carried over into the next morning. She woke up still cold, distant, throwing little comments that stung more than she realized. And as I sat there, watching her scroll on her phone while sipping coffee, something inside me started to click into place. For 2 years, I had been carrying the weight of this relationship in more ways than one. Every month, nearly $5,000 of my money went into her lifestyle. Designer dresses, heels, handbags, makeup. If she wanted it, I bought it. Vacations, dinners, little surprises to make her smile. I took care of it all. And you know what? I never minded. At least not at first. I thought that's what love looked like. I thought making her happy meant providing without hesitation. But the truth was, she had never once offered to spend a dime of her own. Not on clothes, not on dates, not even on groceries. She never reached for her wallet. Every single thing she wore, every bag she flaunted to her friends, came from me. And still, it wasn't enough. That's what hit me the hardest during our argument. Here I was, pouring so much into her, and the moment I said I didn't like one outfit, she flipped it into an attack on our relationship. When she accused me of losing interest, of possibly having someone else in my life, I finally snapped back. "If you really think I'm cheating, check my phone," I said, handing it over. I wasn't hiding a single thing. She could scroll through texts, calls, social media, everything. And she did. She spent nearly an hour flipping through my apps, tapping into every chat, scrolling through pictures. And what did she find? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be the end of it. I expected her to hand me the phone back, apologize, maybe even laugh at herself for overreacting. But instead, she doubled down. "You must be hiding something somewhere else. People like you always find a way." Her tone wasn't suspicious anymore. It was bitter, sharp, almost like she wanted me to be guilty. That's when I asked the question that turned everything upside down. "All right then. If you think I'm hiding something, show me your phone." The air in the room changed instantly. She froze, then forced a laugh, like I had just said something ridiculous. "Why would I show you my phone? That's private. Everyone deserves privacy." But her grip tightened around it. She clutched it like it was glued to her hand, suddenly protective, almost defensive. Her eyes avoided mine, and for the first time in a long while, I noticed her nervousness. That was the moment my stomach sank. Not because I had proof, but because I didn't need proof anymore. Her reaction told me everything. I thought back to all the little things I had brushed off. Her late nights with friends, the time she stepped outside to take certain calls, the way she suddenly locked her phone when I walked into the room. All the pieces started to fall into place, and I hated that I had ignored them for so long. I didn't press her, not right then. I didn't raise my voice. I just watched her hold onto that phone like it contained secrets she couldn't afford to let me see. And in that silence, I realized this wasn't just about the dress, or my money, or even the argument. It was about trust. And suddenly, I wasn't sure we had any left. Her silence after I asked to see her phone said more than any explanation could. She kept staring down at it, thumb pressed against the side like she was ready to bolt if I got too close. I didn't push, not yet. I just asked again calmly. If I had nothing to hide, I let you check mine. So what's the problem with showing me yours? Her hands started to fidget. She forced a smile, but her voice cracked just a little as she said, "It's not about hiding anything. It's about privacy. Couples don't need to look through each other's phones." I almost laughed at the irony. 10 minutes earlier, she had been combing through my phone like an investigator, searching for something that didn't exist. And I had let her, because I had nothing to hide. But the second I asked for the same, she drew a hard line in the sand. That was when it really sank in. If there was nothing on her phone, she would have tossed it into my hands without a second thought. Instead, she held onto it like it contained her lifeline. I sat back on the couch, shaking my head, and I could see her getting more nervous with every passing second. Her voice got sharper, her excuses weaker. Finally, she blurted out, almost like she was looking for an escape route. "You know what? I'm going to my friend's house for 10 days. I need space." I stared at her for a long moment. Not because I didn't believe her, but because I did. And suddenly, all the missing puzzle pieces made sense. The secrecy, the defensiveness, the constant accusations aimed at me, they weren't projections of my actions. They were reflections of hers. I stood up and looked her in the eyes. My voice stayed calm, steady, even though inside I felt a storm brewing. "If you walk out of this house, don't bother coming back. Go if you want to go, but that will be the end of us." She froze for just a second, then let out this little laugh. A laugh that was half amusement, half arrogance. "I know you won't do that," she said with a smirk. She grabbed her purse, tossed her hair over her shoulder, and strutted toward the door like she was in control of the entire situation. That laugh cut deeper than any insult she could have thrown at me, because it told me exactly what she thought of me: weak, dependent, too invested to ever walk away. She believed no matter what she did, no matter how badly she treated me, I'd always be there waiting when she came back. When the door clicked shut behind her, the house went quiet. And in that silence, something inside me shifted. I sat there for a while, replaying her words, her laugh, the way she had looked so sure of herself. And then I realized, she had underestimated me. She thought I'd never follow through. But for the first time in a long time, I knew exactly what I had to do. That laugh would be the last straw, the push I needed to finally stand up for myself. The second the door closed behind her, I sat there for a moment, letting the silence sink in. It wasn't sadness I felt, it was clarity. For years, I had been carrying her on my shoulders, and she had the audacity to laugh in my face, convinced I would never stand up for myself. That laugh echoed in my head, but instead of breaking me, it pushed me to act. I walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, and looked at the rows of designer dresses, handbags, heels, and boxes of makeup stacked like trophies. Every single thing there had been bought with my money. My hard-earned savings poured into someone who didn't even respect me enough to stay honest. For the first time, I didn't see them as her belongings. I saw them as proof of how much I had sacrificed for someone who never once gave back. So I grabbed the first suitcase I could find and started packing. Not just one bag, everything. Dresses folded and stuffed in, heels clattering together, handbags tossed in like they were nothing more than junk. I didn't stop to think. I didn't stop to question. I just kept going until the closet, the drawers, and the shelves were stripped bare. By the time I was done, there were 5 huge bags filled with every luxury item she had ever flaunted. And instead of feeling angry, I felt lighter with every zipper I pulled shut. I dragged the bags outside and loaded them into my car. There was a woman I knew in town, someone who had fallen on hard times, raising 2 kids on her own. She could use these things a hell of a lot more than someone who laughed in my face while draining me dry. When I got to her place, I knocked on the door and handed over the bags one by one. She was shocked, confused at first, then overwhelmed with gratitude. Watching her smile, watching her kids peek curiously at the clothes, I realized this was the first time those things actually meant something. Before I left, I pulled out my phone and recorded the whole thing. The bags, the handover, her thank you. Not because I needed proof for anyone else, but because I wanted her to see that her treasures had been given to someone who would actually appreciate them. When I got back home, I sent her the video. No words, no explanation. Just the video. Not even 5 minutes later, my phone lit up. The first call came. Then another. And another. 30 calls in a row, back to back. Her name flashing across the screen. I didn't answer a single one. About an hour later, I heard it, the pounding on the door. Her voice shouting my name, screaming for me to open up. At first, it was anger. Open the damn door. How dare you touch my things? Then it turned desperate. Please, just open the door. We can talk about this. She alternated between rage and begging, her fists hitting the wood so hard I thought she'd break it. But I didn't move. I sat on the couch, phone in hand, watching the calls roll in, listening to the chaos outside, and for the first time in years, I felt completely calm. Because in that moment, I realized I wasn't the one losing something. She was, and she knew it. She kept pounding on the door like the world was ending. At first it was pure anger, shouts about how I was ungrateful, about how I ruined her life, about how I'd regret this. Then, as the minutes dragged on, the tone shifted. Her voice cracked, softer now, almost pleading. Please, just open the door. We can fix this. Don't throw everything away over one fight. I sat on the couch, listening. The thing is, I'd heard her use that line before. Every time she crossed a line, every time she pushed me past my limit, she would eventually circle back with the same script. Beg a little, promise to change, act like she cared, until things settled and the cycle started again. But this time felt different. Maybe because I was finally done listening. After nearly half an hour, the pounding slowed. I peeked through the curtain, and there she was, sitting on the steps with her face buried in her hands. For the first time, she looked small. Not glamorous, not confident, just small. But instead of pity, what I felt was exhaustion. Years of bending over backward, trying to make her happy, trying to keep the peace, came crashing down at once. And now, the person who accused me of cheating, who laughed in my face, was on the other side of the door begging to be let back in. I didn't budge. When she realized I wasn't opening up, her desperation shifted into anger again. She stood up, yelling through the door. Do you think you're better than me? Do you think you can just throw me away? You'll come crawling back. You'll see. I stayed quiet, my hands steady for the first time in months. The call started again. This time, instead of picking up my phone, I muted it and set it on the table. I watched the screen light up over and over with her name. Each missed call another reminder of the control she no longer had over me. Eventually, she stormed off. Tires screeched as her car pulled away, and the neighborhood finally fell silent again. But the quiet didn't feel heavy. It felt like a clean slate. That night, though, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how easily she flipped between rage and apologies. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about her losing access to the life I had provided. I had given her everything, and the second she thought it was gone, panic set in. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't calls, it was messages. Paragraphs of them. First, apologies. Then insults. Then more apologies. She swung back and forth between, I love you, and you'll regret this, like she couldn't decide which mask to wear. I read them all, then set my phone face down. I didn't respond. The next morning, I woke up to find her car parked outside. She hadn't left. She had stayed all night, waiting. Part of me thought she might finally be ready to own up to what she had been hiding. But when I walked past the window and saw her scrolling on her phone, face stone cold, I realized she wasn't here to confess. She was here to win. And in that moment, I decided I wasn't playing anymore. The morning light spilled across the room, but I barely noticed. My eyes were on the car parked outside. She hadn't gone home. She had stayed there, waiting, like she was determined to outlast me. Hours passed. Every now and then I'd glance out the window, and there she was, sometimes pacing with her phone pressed to her ear, sometimes just staring at the house like she could force me to open the door with her eyes alone. By noon, the messages started again. Walls of text. I didn't mean it. You know I love you. You're being ridiculous. It was just a fight. After everything I've given you, this is how you treat me? That last one made me laugh bitterly. After everything she had given me, the irony almost hurt. I didn't respond. Not a word. When silence didn't work in her favor, she changed tactics. She called one of my friends, trying to get him to convince me to talk. She even reached out to my sister, spinning a story about how I had lost it and was acting crazy. But by then, I had already told them both what happened. They knew the truth. By mid-afternoon, the knocking started again. Softer this time, almost gentle. She even tried the voice she used back when things were good, sweet, light, almost playful. Come on, baby. Let's not do this. Let me in, and we'll forget it ever happened. For a second, I almost felt the pull. The history, the years, The moments when we were happy, they all tried to cloud my judgment. But then I remembered her laugh when I told her to never come back. That smug confidence that I'd never have the strength to leave. That memory kept me sitting still. When I didn't answer, her mask slipped again. The sweetness vanished, and the shouting returned. Threats this time. She said she'd make me regret it. She said I'd never find anyone like her again. That last part one actually agreed with, and I was grateful for it. By the time the sun set, she finally drove away. The sound of her engine fading into the distance felt like the first deep breath I'd taken in months. The house was mine again. Quiet. But I knew it wasn't over. People like her don't just walk away. They circle back, try different doors, test different locks. Sure enough, that night my phone lit up again. Not just with her calls this time, but with messages from mutual acquaintances. She had gone into full damage control, spinning stories about how I had overreacted, how I was unstable, how she was the victim in all this. A few people reached out to me privately, saying they didn't buy her act. They had seen the way she lived off me, the way she flaunted the lifestyle I gave her, the way she treated me in public. Others, though, seemed torn, like they weren't sure who to believe. But for once, I didn't feel the need to defend myself. I had the video. I had the proof. And more importantly, I had my peace of mind back. As I sat there that night, scrolling through the chaos she was trying to create, I realized something. She could scream, lie, or beg all she wanted, but the outcome wouldn't change. She had crossed a line, and I wasn't stepping back over it. This time, I wasn't just done with the fight. I was done with her. That night, after everything, the house finally felt quiet again. No pounding on the door. No screaming outside. No endless calls lighting up my phone. Just silence. I sat there, and for the first time in years, I realized how heavy it had all been. Her moods, her demands, her constant suspicion. I had gotten so used to living under that weight that I forgot what it felt like to breathe without it. The more I thought about it, the more the truth became impossible to ignore. This woman hadn't been with me because she loved me. She was with me because of what I could provide. The moment I pushed back, even slightly, her mask slipped. And once it did, I couldn't unsee it. She had drained me in every way, financially, emotionally, mentally. Every small disagreement turned into a dramatic war. Every quiet moment turned into accusations. And every dollar I spent only led to demands for more. And when she laughed at me, so sure I'd never leave, that was when I knew. She had mistaken my patience for weakness. She believed she could push me forever and I'd never draw a line. But she was wrong. That night, I blocked her number, deleted every message, every picture, every reminder of her from my phone. I locked the door, not just physically, but emotionally too. She could circle the block, spread stories, or cry to anyone who would listen, but she wasn't getting back in. Because the truth was, she'd already had her chance. And she lost it. Looking back now, I don't regret giving her what I did. At the time, I thought it was love. I thought I was building a life with someone who cared about me as much as I cared about her. I see now that I was wrong, but those mistakes taught me what I'll never accept again. The dress wasn't the problem. The money wasn't the problem. The real problem was her selfishness, her entitlement, and her refusal to be transparent. Walking away, cutting ties, giving her things away to someone who actually needed them, it wasn't revenge. It was release. It was me finally saying, enough. And honestly, it was the best decision I've ever made. Now, weeks later, she still tries from time to time. Different numbers, mutual friends, carefully worded apologies. But it's all noise to me. I don't feel the pull anymore. I don't feel guilty for not answering. I just feel free. So here I am, sharing my story. Not because I'm looking for pity, but because I want to know. Did I do the right thing by cutting her out completely? Or should I have given her one more chance, even after everything? I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.